Today on the pod, I chat with Shelby High School senior Carson Ingram. Carson talks about being a two-sport athlete, his college decision, and he also talks about some musical talents he has. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Bases Loaded podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Kennedy, and today my guest is Carson Ingram. Carson, how's it going, man?
Not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad myself. So how old are you, and what sports do you play there at Shelby High School?
So I'm 17, and I play football, and then I also wrestle.
Good deal. So football and wrestling. Obviously, you know, the whole COVID thing with spring sports being canceled and everything was kind of up in the air as far as, football. Were you going to play? How many games? All that stuff. You got through it. Somehow you guys got through it. How has wrestling been going? Because I feel like a lot of schools are kind of quarantining and just the nature of the sport itself. How has that been for you guys as far as dealing with COVID stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely been a whole different year compared to my other 3 years. During football, I remember like talking to some of my teammates that wrestled. And I was like, "There's no way we're gonna be able to wrestle just because it's in a gym confined. It's a pretty close contact sport. It doesn't get any closer than that." And I was just thinking like, "There's no way we're gonna happen." But we made it through. Limited speed bumps so far, but it's as far as big tournaments. We normally stack in. We got Gorman and Top Gun and really big tournaments that we go to, every year. And those didn't happen. We haven't had anything bigger than 5 or 6 teams, which is unlike anything for our schedule normally. So, it definitely limits matches and things like that. 'Cause normally at this time of the year, we'd have, 35, 40 matches, some kids. And, I think the most we have is like 25 matches total this year, which is, it's good to get any matches, honestly, because, I've heard from some schools that haven't got to wrestle at all. So, you think for every opportunity you get. But, yeah, it's definitely it definitely affects things. It's just not the same as it normally is.
Right. And then obviously with, they look at all the high school sports, what you can and can't do and all that stuff and spectators. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you are not allowed to shake hands, right? I mean, it's something you do before a match and you do afterwards, and then you go shake the opponent, the opposing coach's hand. You cannot do that, correct?
Oh, you can't shake. You walk out on the mat. Everyone puts their foot on the line and they blow the whistle. And then sometimes you'll get a kid that will shake hands like after they blow the whistle. You like kind of mutually. But I don't know if I trust a kid enough. You never get one jerk that like grabs your hand when you go to shake their hand or something. So I try to stay away from that and shake hands after. But yeah, you can't shake the coach's hand. You can maybe give them a fist bump if you're lucky, but no shaking hands or anything. But then for 6 minutes you can go and wrestle, get in each other's face, and it's no problem. But the shaking hands is a no go.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it only went, palm to palm. I didn't realize it. So that's
it's crazy how that works. It like transfers straight through your hand, but no. It's whatever.
Good deal. So obviously a successful wrestling season up to so far up to this point, and football was successful too. What would you say is your favorite sport between the two?
Between the two, I'd have to pick football. I mean, that's what I'm going to college for, so I better like it. But wrestling I love the sport of wrestling. It's taught me a lot of things, but it is a tough sport. And, football, it's also tough, but not on the same level, like mentally as wrestling. So football is a lot more fun than wrestling, but wrestling's probably more rewarding like on a personal level. At least for me, it has been.
So as I say, a lot of kids, especially if they're going to go somewhere for college for football, sometimes if they're playing, their senior year, if they play a winter sport, spring sport, sometimes they'll kind of pass that up and just kind of start working out, lifting all that stuff, getting ready for college. Did that come across your mind? Did you consider that at all to not wrestle and focus on football?
Honestly, I've been committed to wrestling my whole life to just not wrestle my senior. Like I've been wrestling since 2nd grade. I do stuff in the summer normally on a normal year. Like I've been a wrestler that plays football for a long time. It's just I happen to hit a growth spurt, gain 50 pounds, and now I can play football at the next level, thankfully. But no, I normally cut weight. I cut a lot of weight. Like last year I was 160. I wrestled 160. Now I'm about 210. I wrestled 220. And I remember telling my coach before the season of like, I'm playing college football. Like I'm not cutting any weight this year. And he's like, that's fine with me. But I never thought about quitting, but I wasn't cutting any weight because I'm focusing on football, lifting, but I wasn't going to exclude wrestling out of my life. this year. You don't only get one more year left.
Good deal. So you're not sitting there in the commons at Shelby High School and watching your buddies eat, and you're sitting there, miserable, right? Because that's terrible, especially if it's.
That was my first 3 years of high school, was watching my friends eat. My best friend, or I got two of my best friends. One plays basketball, Cody Lance, and the other one's Kendall Walter. He's a 300-pound left tackle. He gets like doubles and triples sometimes in the winter. I'll be sitting there with like an egg or like an orange or something. Be like, yeah, that looks really good, Cam. Yeah, carved it down at lunch. I'm like, oh, must be nice.
Yeah, you're over there eating rice cakes, trying to wolf it down.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a sip of water or something. And he's got like 4 cookies and 3 things of milk, and
and they don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand how lucky they are to eat freely and go back up if they want. They can eat quick. They can slow down, and you're just trying to savor every bite of that rice cake. Man.
Yeah. Unless you've done it, you don't understand. Like that's the worst part about wrestling. That's like years before I was like at the end of the season, like I'm ready for this to be done because I get to eat and I get to get back to normal life. But not cutting any weight this year, I had more fun than I've had in any other year wrestling, just because I just have to wrestle. I don't have to worry about how much am I weighing, am I burning enough calories, drinking enough water, do I have to not drink anything for the next 2 days or something. It's just I get to show up, wrestle, and that's it. I don't have anything to worry about. So it's mentally it's a whole different ballgame because I'm free for the first time in years in the winter. Like I got to eat at Thanksgiving for the first time this year, and I get like a piece of turkey and some peas or something. Now I got like 4 pieces of pie, a whole turkey. I had everything, and it was just it's honestly awesome. I'm not getting any weight.
Awesome. So are you trying to match Cam Walter pound for pound as far as like what you guys are eating in the lunchroom? Or you're like, dude, I can do the same thing. I can get doubles now too.
I could try as hard as I could. I could literally like drink something to expand my stomach. I would never eat as much as Cam. Cam could literally eat for like 4 hours, and I'm like we go to Taco Bell or something. He'll get like $30 worth of Taco Bell. And I don't know, you go to Taco Bell, a taco's like $1.50. $30 at Taco Bell is a lot of food. I'm like, are you gonna eat all that, dude? Like no, I would never out eat him. Never. It's never gonna. That's why he's 300 pounds though. I guess
He carries it well though. He carries it well.
Yeah, he's athletic for a big guy.
Absolutely.
Well, but yeah,
absolutely.
I would never out eat him ever. It's never gonna happen.
So take us back to your childhood a little bit here. What were sports like for you growing up? Was there any specific athletes at Shelby that you looked up to or anything like that?
Yeah, Shelby's a pretty big sports town. Everyone, especially football, basketball, not so much wrestling, but everyone loves their sports. So I've been playing sports since I was a little kid. I mean, from playground football in like kindergarten all the way up to flag football. We had like a city league, and then like the final game of the year we had to play the Skies under the lights. That was a pretty big deal for us. But and then wrestling since 2nd grade, because I tried basketball in 1st grade, and that was I couldn't make a basket, so I was like, yeah, I'll try wrestling, and that was where I kind of found it. But yeah, sports have always been a part. I've never had a time in my life where I haven't been doing some kind of sport or training for some kind of sport, so it's definitely a big part of my life. And as far as athletes I look up to, like my freshman year, we had a great Brandon and Carter and all those guys, and I would definitely look up to those guys and see how hard they work in the weight room. I mean, heck, one of them's a starter in a Power 5 conference and absolutely tore it up this year. So, those were great role models to look up to. And then even my teammates, like Owen Fisher, who he unfortunately tore his ACL this year, but I mean that dude got after it in the weight room, and it's a guy that he was a guy that I always wanted to compete with in the weight room, and it definitely made a big difference, in the team, because he was a guy, even like for me, I was a fellow senior captain, but I looked up to him because of how much work he put in all the time. Like I've always had people in our program, wrestling and football, that just absolutely work their butt off, that make really good role models, people to look up to. I think that really rubbed off. I have a pretty good work ethic too, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the whole mindset of having a culture like that, where you've got 8th graders, freshmen, sophomore looking up to you and the other upperclassmen type kids now too. But
Mhm.
so let me ask you this: Who is there any reason why you wore the jersey number you wore in high school for football?
Yeah, that was my dad's number back in high school. It's kind of, I was carrying it on a little bit. I don't know. I've never not worn 45 as, as far back as I can think. 'Cause I never played basketball, so I don't have to worry about that. The only sport I played with a number was football, and I always have worn 40 ever since I was in fifth or sixth grade. Actually, I take that back. My freshman year, they didn't have a 45 in the freshman jerseys. They only had a 44, and that was the only time I've ever not worn 45. But yeah, it's definitely. I've watched some of the old films like from the 1998 year stuff, and like watched my dad and his whole, and the team that they had. And yeah, it's definitely cool wearing 45 out on the same field that he had.
So let me ask you this: Who wore it better, Bart or Carson? Who wore the number 45 better?
I mean, I'm impartial, but I have to say myself. You know, I just do. He was he was a stud, but
Oh yeah, he was good. He was real
I
good.
like to think that I wore it better. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, he may disagree, but it's all
Oh,
good.
he definitely does disagree. Every time he's always like, I still, I was still better, man. I don't know. You got a lot. You got to catch up to me. I don't know who's wearing that 45 better, but yeah, I'd have to say personally, I wore it better. But
Yeah,
who knows?
absolutely,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
up for debate.
Who are some people that have made a big impact on you so far in your life, just in general and obviously athletically too?
Yeah, so in general, my parents have definitely made a huge impact on me. Watching how hard they work and how they treat people. It just having a good upbringing definitely made a big impact on my work ethic and everything like that. Just my overall personality, because seeing them operate, it's good. And my grandparents, they show up to almost every single game. They even go to almost every boys basketball game back when they could. They had like season tickets. They're really involved in Shelby athletics, but seeing them all the time, it's just another set of people that just have been nothing but positive in my life. And then athletically, all my coaches, obviously my football coaches. Shout out to John Amicone, Coach Gurney, Coach Mahaney, all of them. But they, especially my senior year, I think it definitely helped because I was put in a leadership position, and they kind of watching them how they lead kind of helped me grow as a leader and as a football player. And also, my wrestling coaches, Coach John and Coach Hogan. I've spent hours and hours with Coach Hogan in the wrestling room because, he was my seventh and eighth grade coach and got promoted to varsity. So I see him every day. I've seen him every day for the past 6 years during wrestling season. And then in the winter, he runs our off-season stuff. And I was at every single off-season thing. So I've probably spent, thousands of hours with him. So him and I have a really good connection. I think those are the type of people that you want in your life because I know that all of my coaches have my back at all. Like I could call them and they would help me with what I needed to do. So they're all a really good support system for me.
Good stuff. So what would you say, for you, what would you say your sales pitch is for kids to go out for wrestling? Because I think it's one of those things where, people that don't wrestle, they don't get it. They think it's weird, all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And especially with the COVID stuff, you can't even shake hands, but you wrestle. What
Mm-hmm.
would be your sales pitch for kids to try to go out for wrestling?
I think my sales pitch would just be the straight, you can go out there and just dominate someone for 6 minutes, or if you're really good, dominate them for 15 seconds, get the match over with. But it's a sport where you got to be tough, and if you're not tough, you're not going to make it, honestly. So I think it's a good way to see if you're what you're made of, because only so many people make it on the basketball team or whatever. But wrestling, if you're not tough, then you won't survive. I've seen so many kids, like crazy good athletes, come out for wrestling thinking they're just gonna kill it, and they absolutely get smacked in the mouth, and they quit. They're not tough. So I think the sales pitch for wrestling is it will make you tougher, and if you have what it takes, it develops you as a person so much. Like there's so many lessons you learn from, like accountability and responsibility and discipline. Cutting weight, there's sometimes where you don't eat for 2 or 3 days. I've done it, and then it takes a lot of discipline to do that. And there's been times where I've missed weight and I've cost 13 duels. Like in the state duels, my freshman year, I missed weight by 0.2 pounds, I think. and I ended up costing our team the duel, and we lost in the state duels when we really could have made a run. And that from then on, that taught me how to, how to make will. And so it teaches you, things from responsibility, discipline. Just it makes you a better man, I think.
So for you, what would you say, thus far is your most, proud accomplishment as an athlete? What would you say?
So my favorite accomplishment, it's kind of between, I have one for wrestling and I have one for football. My one for wrestling is, I just recently got my 100th win. I'm sitting at like 102 right now, and I'm racing for the pin record. I'm like 13, 14 away from that. But for football, all Ohio and all league, those are really nice. But my favorite, accomplishment was just the back-to-back, conference championships. And back, we went pretty far in the playoffs both years. And it just kind of shows the, the culture and the program that we have built in Shelby. It's I think next year's team is going to be really good, and I'm really proud of where we're at as a program. And I think that our playoff run this year and back-to-back conference championships, I mean, there's nothing better than that. The first 2 years we're in the conference, we've dominated the conference. We've won 2 years in a row. So that is what I'm most proud of. I'd say was our team dominated the conference 2 years in a row, and then we'll go far in the playoffs.
I was gonna say also, don't sell yourself short here. They kind of put you in different spots on the football field at early on, right? Playing different spots. Was everything okay if something happened to Coach Amico? They're like, you know what, Carson Ingram, go ahead and call the defense, that you pretty much had to play every position, right?
I mean, yeah, I think I know. I especially my senior year, I knew the ins and outs of that defense, everything. But Coach Craig or Coach Gurney or Coach Albert would be calling that defense if Amico was out. Like, he actually had he got his appendix removed in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And so we kind of got to see how our defense was without him. And, it wasn't the same. He's got a coaching fire that, it really gets you going. But yeah, it was interesting without him. But yeah.
Yeah, as I say, you're looking around at the other coaches like, hey, if you guys don't have this, I can take it for the day,
Yeah, I definitely knew the ins and the outs of the defense in my senior year. It was rough my first couple of years though. I mean, in 8th grade, I played free safety, and they tried to move me to linebacker because I really love tackling kids, and at free safety, you don't get tackle many kids. But I ended up not getting moved to linebacker in my freshman year. Coach Gurney was like, "This kid's a linebacker," so I played weak side linebacker. And sophomore year, I actually got a little bit of varsity time, got to play weak side. My junior, we needed a Sam, so I had to move all the way over to Sam, which they say is the same position, but it's really not. Like, it is, but it isn't. It's a whole different rules and everything. And then my senior year, I had to go into Mike, which traditionally was Mike's always been played as senior captain, who just knows the defense. And then, last year was Austin Gray, and then it was me. It's just kind of how it flows. But it was definitely tricky learning all those new positions, but it definitely helped me get a better understanding of the defense as a whole. When you've seen it from so many different angles, it helps.
Absolutely. Are there any specific, matches in wrestling or even plays or moments in football that you wish you could have back, good or bad?
Ones I wish we could have back would be Clyde. I love the feeling at the end of that game this year, where we ended up, we beat them after they beat us the previous year and ended up winning the state championship in a pretty rough game. That game, my junior year, the game that they beat us, I don't remember anything from that game, honestly. I was on a kickoff and they scripted it to me, and then I just got absolutely blown up. And I remember I was like, oh, what's going on? And then I go over to the sideline, and something happens. We go on defense, and I'm talking to one of my friends, and I was starting at the time. And he looks over at me, he goes, we're on defense, dude. You know that, right? And I look over, I'm like, oh, crap. I had to run out onto the field, and they just snapped the ball by the time I got there. I didn't even realize we're on defense. And, that was a tough game. But coming back against Clyde our senior year, I remember first play, Owen took it like 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. And I was like, we're going to win this game. We got this. Like, I could just feel the momentum switch, and I knew we had it. No matter how close it was going to be, we were going to win. And that feeling on that play was a feeling I want back again, for sure.
So, what about nervousness? Do you get nervous before wrestling or before football, or are you kind of cool and ready to go and focused in?
It's kind of a different story for football and wrestling. For wrestling, it's mano a mano. There's a lot more pressure, especially the big matches. The kid's good. It's going to be a 3-minute or 3-period match that you just have to. It's going to suck basically. Those I get a little more nervous. I get a little amped up, but like almost too amped up. So those I kind of have to relax and just go sit with friends, kind of chill out in the bleachers by myself, put my my headphones on, just calm down. And for football, my first couple of years, I was pretty small. I was really nervous for my games, honestly. Like, I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. I was literally like shaking before the game until like kickoff. But my senior year, I kind of got more confidence in how I was playing, and I was a lot bigger than I was my previous year, so I wasn't like scared of getting absolutely killed. I noticed I was a lot more relaxed during warm-ups and everything, and I would I'd play catch with the guys and stuff, and on the first play I would feel fine. But during my first couple of years, I needed a couple plays to warm up, and for wrestling I needed like those first 15 seconds to kind of get hit a little bit, get moving. But I get really nervous most of the time for any kind of event, and I imagine in college it's going to be the same way. In the first couple of years, I'm going to be shaking, or even the first practice, I'm going to be shaking my boots, because these are 300-pound linemen that are 23 years old or whatever, absolutely coming running for your face. You're an 18-year-old kid, like 200 pounds. It's scary stuff. So but I'll get through it.
Right. So, with speaking of college, you had a really busy week, talking about, was it last week, your 100th win and committing to college. So you commit to Hillsdale College for football. What all went into that decision for you to commit there?
Yeah, so I it was a pretty tough decision, but it was a clear decision. I thought I had, I wouldn't say I had a lot of options, but I'd gone to a lot of visits, and my junior year I had no one was talking to me. I had no offers, no anything. I didn't even have a single coach reach out or even follow me on Twitter. And in my senior year, obviously, I went from 180 to like 215. It changes things, but I'd gone on quite a few visits, and I had some offers to other schools, and I really liked those schools. But the thing that really set Hillsdale apart from me was just their academics. Because I plan on, biology pre-med, going to med school, and Hillsdale was just the right fit for me, because they're an academic team who puts academics first. They want to make sure that you're succeeding outside of the classroom. And talking with my position coach and my recruiting coach and the head coach, I just loved the culture there. And I was like, I remember leaving with my mom and being like, this is the place where I want to go for the next 4 years. This is what I want to do. And so, I had to go on my other visits, and I was like, unless something changes or something, this is where I want to go. And I took my visits. I talked with my parents. I said, this is where I'm going to go. And they said, all right, we support you in that decision. And so that was kind of it. That was the story.
Good deal.
It was a choice for me.
So do you have any goals as far as, what you'd like to weigh when you get on campus? Is there anything, this summer you want to try to beef up a little bit?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm in like 205 right now, because I lose a little weight during wrestling, but I played around 215. I think I'd like to get 225, 230 by the time I walk on campus in early August. And I think that's an obtainable goal, because during last year I wrestled 160 in March, and then by June I was 210, 215. So I think that it's almost a similar weight change. And I think, putting in some time in the weight room, getting the right diet, especially after wrestling, I can't gain any weight during wrestling. It's impossible. So that is definitely my goal, is to, be 225, 230 and still be able to move. It's the ultimate. I don't want to be fat and look like Fat Thor in the new Marvel movie or whatever, but I still want to be kind of big.
Absolutely. So, what about for wrestling season? The rest of the wrestling season now. What goals did you have going into this year?
Yeah. So my sophomore year, I made it to districts, and I went 2-2. I was like a match and a half away from state, basically. And then my junior year, we changed sectionals to an absolute bear of a sectional, and I ended up not making it out of sectionals even. And so my goal this year, step one, is just make it out of sectionals, go to districts, and then hopefully state. But the problem is our sectional is absolutely loaded. I mean, we got teams like Bellevue, Clear Fork, Tiffin, Ontario's in there, Galleon's in there. Who else am I missing? I know there's another team. I didn't think the Clyde's in there. It's just an absolutely packed sectional. Ashland's in there. Ashland has, they're one of the top programs in the area. And so it's not like I can look to state and be like, all right, when I get there, I want to place 6. I want to place, I want to win a state. I can't look anywhere past sectionals because there's kids, our sectional's full of studs. Plain as that. So you have to wrestle your best match every time. You're not even going to make it out of sectionals. So, obviously conference, I want to win that, but my main goal is state. So I got to look at conference and go to sectionals where it's going to be tough. Districts is just as tough, and hopefully make the state.
So what do you have for, everybody's different as far as pre-game, pre-match rituals, superstitions. Some people listen to music. Some people are losing their mind. Some people are just quiet, focused. What's your mindset for, football and wrestling before a game or before a match?
So for football, my mindset is just get relaxed and just kind of stay calm. Because sometimes I'm like, I want to go rip someone's head off. And,
yeah.
You kind of burn out in the first quarter, early on. So my thing for that is just kind of stay calm, joke around with the teammates, listen to some music or whatever. But one kind of superstition for football, every pregame, and it's usually around the time we start doing like routes and catching, the announcer would play Phil Collins in the air tonight. And if
great song.
If I didn't hit the drum solo, I wasn't going to have my best game. But when I did hit the drum solo, I had a good game every time. I don't know what it was.
So hold on. So the drum solo is getting ready to come up, but you're also supposed to be running a route. Do you have the kid behind you go in front?
I'll stop. I'll go. And then I had to do that every game, or it wasn't going to go well. At least at home, they didn't always play it away, but at home games they played it every time.
Well, they knew the away opponent knew that, like, we can't let him get.
Yeah, they didn't want me to get that solo in, because if I did, it was game over. I had to have that happen.
I love it. Love it. So for wrestling, what do you listen to some, the Beatles, or you listen to some, Van Halen, or what? What are you doing for wrestling?
For wrestling, yeah, I don't really listen to a lot of music during wrestling. It's just because I don't know, it's just not a locker room, it's a more public area. I don't do that. I kind of just pace back and forth, I talk with my teammates, and then right before the match, like when I'm on deck and I'm next, I pull my hood up, put my headgear on. I don't talk to anyone for the next however long it takes to do a match. But yeah, there's definitely a big difference between football and wrestling. Wrestling's more, it's not take care of business. In football, I felt like I could, have a little more relaxed demeanor and still play my best.
Good deal. So for football, what's your preference, grass or turf? Obviously now a lot of high schools are getting turf. Shelby's going to be getting turf sometime soon. What do you prefer?
Honestly, I've only played on turf a handful of times, and I remember playing on it in the summer during like 7-on-7s, and my feet literally almost burning off my, off my legs. So I'd have to say grass, but I know in college no one has grass, so I'm gonna have to learn how to play on turf. But I think the best way to play football is on grass, especially really good high kept grass. You can't beat it. It's a whole different thing.
So what do you have any hidden talents? I've heard that, obviously, really good student, really good at sports, but you've got some other things you're pretty talented at too, right?
Yeah, I play a lot of instruments. So I play like French horn, trombone, and I also play guitar. I used to play percussion when I was a little bit younger. I kind of got away from that, but yeah, I'm in like symphonic bands, and I'm also in chamber choir. I do some singing. I'm not the best at singing, but it's fun. But yeah, I think music is my hidden talent, especially guitar. Guitar is my favorite, because it's the coolest of all. No one thinks French horn's cool because it's not. But guitar is really fun. There's so many songs you can learn and play. Like, I was playing some B.B. King earlier and stuff like that, like some really old stuff that is my favorite. Stevie Ray Vaughan, B.B. King, guys like that. Those are my favorite guys to play along with. I love guitar.
Dude, I don't know, man. You go to college, you have some trouble, meeting some new people. You go to a party and all of a sudden you pull out a French horn. They're gonna be like, "Who's this? This
Yeah.
is from Shelby, Ohio. What in the world's going on?"
Yeah,
Never
I
know.
don't think you could pull out a French horn, but a guitar, maybe.
Yeah.
Like some Wonderwall or something. I don't know.
Oh, love it. So it's funny. I actually plan on asking this question. You kind of alluded to it a little bit already. How bad are you at basketball?
I'm really good at defense and rebounding.
Right, because you're physical, right?
Yeah, I'll throw some kids around, but if we're calling fouls, it's game over. I'm fouling out in the first quarter. But shooting wise, some days it seems like I don't miss, but those days don't happen very often. I can't play basketball to save my life. Honestly, it's just something about it. I can't, like my best friend Cody Lacey's going to Rio Grande for basketball, and he's always wanting to play basketball and stuff. And I'm like, I will try, but if we play pig, I'm not gonna make a single shot. Like, it's just not gonna happen. I can't play basketball.
Yeah, so when you play, you got to have him spell, something a lot quicker, and yours has got to be a lot longer. That way you can stay in the game a little bit longer. Make it fair, balance it out.
Yeah, I'm more of a defender and I'm like a Patrick Beverly type. I'll play some really good defense, but don't ask me to score points because it's not.
Love it. All right, Carson, thanks a lot for being on the podcast, man, and best of luck to you in the future.
Yeah,
thanks a lot for listening to another episode of the Bases Loaded podcast, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Bases Podcast.